Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the West Bend webinar for the month of September. This month's webinar is on supervisor accountability, and while it was more focused towards the construction industry, it can be used by any industry that is out there. It's just need to keep some of those things in mind. Chris Caton and Joe Bansmer, two loss control consultants with Argent, are the presenters for this month's webinar, and I will let them begin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the West Bend Mutual Insurance webinar, Enhancing Supervisor Accountability in Construction, presented by the Argent Construction Advisory Team. My name is Chris Caton. I'm a loss control consultant in the Nebraska and Western Iowa region for Argent, and I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Joe Bansmer, who is also a loss control consultant in the state of Wisconsin. On behalf of Joe and myself, I again welcome you to our presentation today. If you have any questions, we do have time at the end of the presentation to take some of your questions and hopefully provide you some insights. The single greatest safety system failure in corporate America today is the lack of accountability. And this was a quote by Dan Peterson. He's a safety guru who's been around for many years, even before OSHA was in existence. And we hear this term accountability all the time. And unfortunately, we're jumping into an election year and we hear this word thrown around all the time. And honestly, I don't think anybody who spouts about accountability really even knows what it means. And hopefully we'll provide some insight. Our primary focus for this webinar is to strengthen supervisor accountability in order to improve safety performance for your organization. Along with that goal, we're going to provide opportunities to help build the foundation for your safety programs. We all know in order to have any type of solid building, we have to have that's going to support that building. And it's the same thing for our safety programs. We're going to look at the rationale for holding supervisors. Important. Why should you hold them accountable? We're going to define accountability, and my buddy Joe's going to provide examples on what that looks like and some of the things that you can do with tools in order to measure accountability. It's great, again, to say, oh, we're going to hold blah, blah, blah accountable for blah, blah, blah. But if we don't have any tools, we don't have a way to actually put this down on paper and show a measurement, then what does it really mean? And also, we have some additional resources to enhance your safety programs. So let's start with building a safety foundation. We all know for any type of construction project, you have to have a solid foundation in place. And with safety programs, it's the same thing. So in order to help build that foundation, I think it's important to understand some of the differences between management and leadership. Management is doing things right, and leadership is doing the right things. And this is a great quote, I think, because it helps to identify some of the differences between management and leadership. Doing the right things is so important in order to make sure you're building your project, whatever it is you're constructing, is done right, it's done to code, and it's going to withstand the forces that it was designed for. If we don't do those things and we don't follow the rules that are in place, we don't follow that plan, then that's not going to be a successful project. And it's the same thing with our safety programs. We want to make sure that we have those components in place and that they're supported by our leadership and in order to be enforced. So I think it's important to understand some of the differences between management and leadership especially when it comes to safety accountability. A manager, they administer, they're on the front lines, they should be. They're there to make sure things are being done according to the plan. Well, the leaders, they innovate, they're developing that plan, they have that map of where they want to go, and it's important that everyone's on the same page in order to achieve that goal. The manager is a copy, the leader is the original. Again, the leader is outlining their steps, they're focusing on what's the big picture goal, and the manager is to help achieve that goal with the help of their staff. Now, the manager maintains, again, being on the front lines, the manager is going to be there to ensure that the process is being followed as it should be. Every day on the job site, they're looking at the plans, they're making sure that we're doing the right things, the steps are in order, we have the things that we need in order to complete that plan. The leader, their job is to make sure that the plan has been outlined and developed and it's fully functional in order to support everyone else and provide a successful project. The manager focuses on systems and structures, whereas the leader, he focuses on people. Now, the structure and the system has been developed and implemented, and if, as long as it's being followed and we have the right people in place, then hopefully that will be a successful project. By managing, organizations make things happen. By leading, organizations show employees why safety matters and why they should be motivated. Because at the end of the day, what's really important is our people. If we're not able to get our job done and get our job done safely with everyone coming home with just as many fingers and toes as they did when they came into work that day, then we're not having a successful project. So this brings us to a really good question. Do your safety programs keep your people safe? And I would love to be there with you in person and see a show of hands on this slide, but unfortunately I'm not. And I really want you to think about these different types of safety programs and think, where do you fit in? Do you have a gold standard safety program that others look to? It's integrated into everything you do, whether it's pre-planning, post-injury assessments, daily inspections, all of those items. What about everybody involved? It goes up and down the management structure and frontline structure. No one is beyond safety. To look forward, we're trying to find potential accident-causing items or pieces of equipment that on the verge of breaking or don't have the right components. We're not using those items, and we're transparent. We're sharing near misses with our people. We're looking for their feedback and their support and their corrections so that those types of injuries or accidents don't happen again. And it's proactive. We're not trying to respond to an injury. We're actually trying to be ahead of that situation and identify it before it happens. Is it a customary old school, it's the way we are type of mentality? We have quick fix. We had an issue with this piece of equipment. We were able to get it working again. It's not a safe piece of equipment to be using, but we've got to get this project done today. We focus on accidents. We're not looking for near-miss incidents. We're just looking for accidents that occur. You might have a robust reporting of accidents after they occur, but are you missing out on opportunities to prevent an injury or an accident because you're not identifying those items up front? And you might have committee meetings. Those committee meetings, you might look at some accidents here and there, but maybe you're looking at it 2, 3, 4 months down the road instead of right away when that happens, and you're not working proactively to prevent that from occurring to someone else. Or do we just do what we do to get by? We're too small to fail. We put out fires as they come. Safety is viewed as an expense. We don't have money for that. We don't have time for that. Time is money, right? Management's involvement's only when it's required, meaning we might have some management on the job site, maybe once during the day, if even that, or maybe there's a team meeting in the morning and nobody's there the rest of the day to ensure that things are getting done. So again, I encourage you to take a deep look inside. What kind of program do you think you have? Where do you think your safety programs are right now? So now we want to look at safety programs without management support. What does that look like? What are some of the things that you may be able to relate to? Why safety responsibility is not recognized in a lot of organizations? It can be perceived as a burden. Again, we don't have time for that. We're always a day late and $1 short, and we never have enough manpower. Accidents happen. It is what it is. We understand in this industry things are going to happen. That's the kind of attitude we have. Production's compromised by safety. Again, time is money. Safety, it slows us down, and we don't have time for that. We're on a strict schedule. Operations versus safety. Well, the safety doesn't fit into this outline for today's task, so we're just going to skip that part. A lack of HR processes. You may have operations that enforce safety or encourage safety, but then you don't have the HR support on the back end if to hold people accountable for not following those processes. There's a one-way communication, and that's fear. If you don't do this and do it my way, then it's the highway. So people are afraid they might lose their job. It's a make do, make fit approach. We don't have the right pieces and parts, but we're going to do what we can with what we have instead of taking the time to get the right parts. And minimal employee involvement. If we don't have frontline support and buy-in for our programs, then they're never going to be successful. There's always going to be that backlash against what we're trying. So now let's look at some of the impacts to the organization when there is safety without management support. High insurance costs, and this could be all of your insurance lines, whether it's your work comp insurance, your health insurance, your general liability insurance, all of those types of things that you have to insure. If you're not a safe company, it's going to cost you. Increased incident rates. Again, with more incident rates comes more injuries, more time away from work. I don't know too many contractors right now who have people knocking on their door wanting to come and work for them. It's a really tight job market, and increased incident rates only means your project's going to take longer. Poor employee relations, any type of lack of safety programs, people don't feel safe, they're going to quit, they're going to leave that job. And again, that's going to increase your turnover and your training expenses. Employee complaints, which can lead to OSHA citations and other issues, shutting down a job site, which again costs you money. And then low employee morale. And this is huge because if you have low employee morale, you don't have people that are going to stick with you and stay with you on job sites. Your turnover is going to be high. Your training expenses are going to be high. And it's going to cost more to get your projects done. I want to go back to old school safety programs for a moment and talk a little bit more about some examples. In old school safety programs, it's unclear who is responsible for safety. Maybe you do or don't have a safety director. Maybe you use a project manager who has some kind of knowledge of safety. He's heard of OSHA before, and so he's your go-to guy on the job sites. But that confusion can be injury causing and accident causing on the job site because there's no clear communication and expectations at the site. Excuse accident causes. Timmy, he's an accident prone kind of guy. He can't chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. Well, what types of training or education or one-on-one assistance are you providing to Timmy so that maybe you stop giving him bubblegum and he can walk and not trip over things or something like that? What are you doing to help him be successful at his job? Identifies problems, but we're unable or we're unwilling to fix them. We don't have the capital for that right now, or we just don't have the time. We got to get this project done. If we don't get this project done, we're not going to get paid. Time is money. We fix the symptoms, but we don't fix the cause. So it's a quick fix. We're going to go ahead. We found this piece of rebar that was causing people to trip, so we ground it down. And yes, it's a rainy, dirty job site, and that's probably just going to pop back up again, but we don't have time to identify why that keeps popping up. And we just go through the motions. Safety is something that we have to do. We have to have these safety committee meetings. So we talk about this, we talk about that. We go through our daily checklists at our job sites. We're pencil whipping those. We're not really looking for hazards. We're just doing what we have to get our job done that day. And then safety is in charge of all safety programs. And this is where if your organization is siloed, everyone has their own area they work in, that they're not responsible for any aspect of safety because that's his job over there. That's the safety director's job. And that's where we need everybody to have some type of accountability for safety in order for your program to be successful and keep people from having injuries and accidents on the job site. Negative impacts on the organization from old school safety programs include, again, I just mentioned this, quick fix problems. They return, unfortunately, because we didn't identify the root cause of that incident. We're setting up our employees for failure, not only for failure from potentially an injury causing accident, but also failure for not getting the job done correctly, which could be resulting in reworking on that job, or which cost you more time and money and expense on that project. What about reactive management? We find it and we fix it, but like the picture shows below, we're just putting a Band-Aid on a broken window because we're not really drilling down to see what caused that glass to break. Supervisors ignore and employees reject our programs because there's no involvement. They have no input, they have no feedback, they're not providing you with types of corrective actions that they feel would be effective, and therefore they aren't going to follow the changes that you implemented. Their feedback and their support and buy-in for those changes are so vital to the success of those changes. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about safety with management support. We're going to talk about gold safety standard programs. What does that look like? Well, they're driven and owned by management. It starts at the top and it works its way down, and it's in every level of the organization. There is no tolerance for accidents. I've been to organizations that believe so much in their processes, their training, their programs that they have implemented and in place, that there's no such thing as an accident. If you're doing your job the way you were trained to do your job and being done with the tools and resources that you were provided with, then you won't have an accident. That means employee-centered decisions are being made based on having those proper resources and safety devices in place, instead of, I might show up at a job site and need to do some metal flashing on the edge of a roof. I don't have a harness because whoever didn't pack one, I didn't pack one, it wasn't provided, whatever happened. So instead of choosing to work on that job without my harness in place, I'm stopping, I'm contacting whoever I need to contact in order to get that piece of safety equipment and do my job safely. Responsibilities and expectations are clearly defined. Communication on the job site is so important. And I can't stress this enough, that we have to be clear and concise with our expectations, what it is, that task that's going to be completed, how it should be completed, and what your expectation is, and as far as the safety pieces of equipment that will be utilized. Doing your job correctly means doing it safely. And management is there and personally involved in supporting you throughout the day, throughout the process, in order to achieve that goal of everyone getting home safely. When you have management support for safety, your gold standard safety programs will have a positive impact on the organization. And that's not just from a financial standpoint, that's like the bonus of having gold standard safety programs, because you're going to have fewer injuries, there's going to be fewer expenses, fewer background expenses related to having people injured and off the job. You're going to have employees that want to come to work, they're engaged, they have good morale, they want to be on the job site. It increases productivity, it decreases the time spent on the job site, hopefully, because you have people showing up every day. You don't have those employment issues and lack of bodies to get the work done. It decreases employee turnover. And again, that's so huge with the amount of time and money it takes to get somebody up to speed on what it is they're doing. Employees promote the company. If you have good programs and safeties integrated into every level of your organization, then people want to work there. They want to come and work there. They want to be a part of that. They want to build things, because at the end of the day, safety is an integral part of production. And that means you're getting your things, the projects done that you were working on, and you're getting them done with everybody going home to their families at the end of the day. So now we're going to switch gears, and Joe Bantimer is going to take over the accountability section and give you some really good insight into what that looks like, what it means, and then those resources that you can utilize and incorporate in your organization. Take it away, Joe.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the introduction. This is Joe Bansimer, loss control consultant for Argent. We're a division of West Bend Mutual Insurance Company. And, Chris is talking to you about the importance of setting that foundation as a ownership or management team when it comes to safety. And what I want to do now is talk to you about, what specifically should we be asking your foreman, your crew leaders, your supervisors in the field to be doing for safety, and why is that important? And talking about what is the accountability that you want to have, or the expectations you want to have for safety. If you go out to your crew and you observe them working, what are your expectations when you see them working, from obviously a production standpoint, a quality standpoint, but really also from that safety standpoint. So we're going to start out by talking about what is accountability. So the most common response is, when you think about the word accountability, is kind of a negative consequence, right? It's the failure to perform. Like, you're going to hold me accountable. I think of my kids, right? Like, I'm holding you accountable to making sure you perform well in school, and their eyes get bigger than $half, right? And so it's not really ever thought of as anything positive. It's a negative thought process. And when you look at the Webster dictionary, the dictionary says it's to be liable or answerable. I mean, who wants to be liable? Certainly not me. And it's the ability to account or to be measured. And so not only are you going to ask me to do something, but now you're going to measure my performance. I mean, that's just not something most people wake up every day thinking, oh, that's great. I really want to do that. It's the obligation to fulfill a task, or else, right? Like if I don't do this, do I lose my job? Do I get reprimanded somehow? Does a negative consequence occur because of this accountability? So, with that, what we want to look at is, if we're going to hold someone accountable, right? We got to know what we're holding them accountable for. And that performance needs to be measured, right? It's got to be objective. It can't be a subjective thing. Now, I kind of like Joe, so, he's kind of a good guy. Or I kind of like Chris, he's kind of a good guy, so I'll give him a good score. Well, no, that's very subjective. It needs to be very objective, and we're going to explore that. When someone is responsible, his or her performance is not always measured. As I said before, it's not always measured. But when it comes to safety and safety performance, and if we want a positive response out of our foreman, that's something that we really need to strongly consider. So the objective really here, when we talk about holding people accountable, is that we want to motivate performance. In this case, we want to motivate them to be safe. We want to motivate them to act safe. So what safety tasks do you ask your supervisors or foremen to complete? Do you have a list of tasks you ask them to complete? And are those tasks measurable? Are they objective? Can you measure them after a given period of time and say, Chris, you do a really good job with this because you do 5 out of 6 of this thing. And as a result, that's really good. Or you only do, out of the 10 times you had a chance to do this, you've only done it once. Not good. So supervisor accountability, let's talk about that a little bit more. When we think about your supervisor or foreman, their job is to lead the project or the job. It's to make sure it's done on time, it's in budget, there's quality expectations. I'm sure you have measurables for all these, or some type of measurement on how you measure your supervisors or foreman's performance when it comes to these things. What about getting that job done safely? How is that measured? We want to make sure we're setting up our supervisors and their employees for a situation that's going to be positive, not that we're leading them into a situation where they're going to think it's a negative consequence, or that they're like, whoa, I see some hazards above here. I'm not too thrilled about moving forward here. So supervisor accountability, again, we measure maybe are they on schedule, the production, the cost. But if we're going to make safety a core value, we have to make sure that the safety performance can be measured as well. So supervisors, again, are in a great position to set the tone, the culture for the workplace, or in this case, the job site, right? They're in a position to lead and to be safety leaders, right? I mean, if you see the foreman walking around without his safety glasses on, or without safety shoes on, or not having a reflective vest when he's supposed to have a reflective vest or shirt on, and he's supposed to be the one leading the crew, well, that's not exactly setting the greatest example. However, if you're watching the supervisor and yep, they got their safety glasses on, they're marching to the orders or the expectations. Now they're setting the right culture. They're being that safety leader. So they can lead by example. Lead with a philosophy that all injuries and illnesses are preventable. The thought process to the crew should be that we expect you not to be injured and we can prevent injuries from happening. Not, well, we're in roofing, so, you're going to fall. You work from ladders, so you know what? Once in a while, you're going to slip. Making sure that we set the expectation or the bar that no, we expect, as Chris was saying earlier, we expect injury-free. We expect you to go home in the same condition in which you arrived. Provide for and encourage meaningful employee involvement in the safety process. So, one thing I noticed with this COVID is that you got to wear masks everywhere. And if you got to wear safety glasses with a mask, guess what happens? Yeah, the safety glasses fog up and you can't see. So what do? You lift the safety glasses off. Well, if we don't talk to the employees about that or talk about what is it that's preventing them from performing that task the way in which we expect, we're missing out. We need to understand what is the employee, what barriers are they running into. Most people want to comply. I'm not saying you don't have your X percentage of folks out there that kind of buck the system, but most people, they want to comply if it makes sense and if they can do it and it doesn't prevent them from what? Getting the work done. So it's important that we have that employee as part of that process, talking to us about the issues maybe that they're running into. Your foreman can be a leader on safety or look the other way. And really, right or wrong, they're still impacting it, right? They're still impacting your safety culture. If they don't address the issue and they're looking the other way and they're saying, oh, my guys don't have on safety glasses right now. My guys aren't wearing safety vests right now. My guys aren't doing whatever they did for safety. If they're not doing anything, they're looking the other way, they're still impacting your safety culture, just not the way in which your expectations maybe are, right? So either way, we need to make sure that supervisor understands that whether you do these things or don't do these things, safety is being impacted. So what should we expect our foremen and our crew leaders to do for safety? And what's important here is that we are very clear and concise to them of exactly what your expectations are. And these are examples of things to consider. These may not fit your environment perfectly, but I think this will give you some ideas to think about. What is it that I want my leadership in the field to be doing? And of course, the first one I think we always look at is PPE, the personal protective equipment. I go out to your job site. I'm going to see that your crews are wearing their safety glasses, their hard hats, proper footwear, they have on reflective visors. I'm going to see that, and that's my expectation, that the foreman or the crew leader are making sure those things are happening. That unsafe conditions or acts are addressed. That if we see, for instance, that on the north side of the building, we're trying to set up scaffolding and the ground is not level enough to safely put up that scaffolding, that we see that we are changing that condition proactively. Maybe we decide that we're not going to work on that side of the building. We're going to work on the east side of the building where the ground is much more level until we can get the other side of the building ground conditions more appropriate for setting up scaffolding. So we're seeing that we're taking a proactive, that your foreman and your crew leaders are taking that proactive stance when it comes to providing that safe work environment for your employees. That we're conducting pre-planning meetings. So for instance, on the second floor of an apartment building where materials are being delivered and it's being placed on a let's say, an open balcony, and we don't have the railing systems up at this point, that during a pre-planning meeting, we're determining then how are we going to keep those employees safe when they're going to retrieve those materials. Are we going to give them personal fall protection? Are we going to maybe put up some temporary railing? What are we going to do to make sure that our employees are safe when they're about to conduct a work task? That we're looking at emergency preparedness. If we do have an injury, how are we going to respond to that injury? Do we know where the nearest clinic or hospitals are? Is the clinic 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away, or are you in a remote area where there is not a place to get someone quickly to a healthcare facility? So having that plan in place in case there is a situation that someone needs medical attention, that we're prepared for it. That when they do have an injury on job site, that they understand that not only is their job to report it to the office, so the office can let the insurance carrier know or let you folks know there's been an injury, but that part of their responsibilities are to identify what caused that injury. And then what steps are they going to take then to reduce or eliminate the exposures that cause that injury? So they're doing a full accident investigation. Because when an injury happens at a work site, all eyes are watching. And based on how that foreman, supervisor, that lead person reacts to that situation, can tell that employee a lot about how management and ownership views safety. You know, if they're looking at a situation where someone was hurt and we've taken the time to properly look at what caused it, and then also then made sure we had a good response on how to prevent it in the future, that goes a long ways for your employees to understand that you do in fact take safety very safely at your work sites. That there's some type of ongoing awareness training and expectations, and oftentimes these are done either through toolbox talks or safety huddles, but an opportunity one time a week to meet with the employees and discuss pertinent safety issues, and that we're having discussions on potential hazards that could lead to an injury, and we're making employees aware of this through these talks. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is be very concise and pointing out to the foreman or the crew leader of what your expectations are, what things you are actually asking them to do to make sure that their work environment is safe for their employees. So we have tools to help you measure and look at safety accountability. Because you want to measure the presence of safety versus the absence of an injury. And the important thing there is, you know, you may have a job that, yep, we haven't had any injuries to that incomplete job task, but we did a great job with safety. Well, did you? You very well could have, but did you just get lucky? Or did you actually measure that crew leaders and that foreman's or crew members' performance? Did you actually measure it? Yep, we really did. We had some unsafe situations and conditions, and we corrected them. We made sure everyone's wearing their PPE, and we measured these things. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Does safety have an equal weight to other performance measures, right? And then that's really the key, right? That's the challenge, right? Is it production outweigh safety, or is everything equal to one another? Are consequences applied consistently at all levels of organizations? You know, I work with quite a few different organizations, and I'm always wondering, boy, the owner or the VP or the head of operations is out there at the job site because they're having a customer complaint or they're having a quality issue or a production issue. Excuse me. But would they be out there if there was an injury or a safety issue? And that's really the challenge, right? How often should safety activities results be evaluated for their effectiveness? So how often should you be giving your foremen and your crew leaders feedback on their safety performance? You know, my guess is that you give them a lot of feedback on production, a lot of feedback on quality, on coming in time for budget. Make sure you're including safety with that as well. Make it be right. If it's quarterly or if it's by project, then give that feedback for safety by project. Give the feedback quarterly if that's what you do. Successfully completing these tasks should be tied to the supervisor's performance assessment or company bonus programs. It's kind of hitting the people in their wallet, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, wait a minute, if I do this, I get a that-a-boy, but if I do this, I get a better performance, which means I could probably get more take-home money, right? More money coming back to me Inc., right? To me Inc. is important. So if me Inc. is going to get more money as a result of doing this, I may be more willing to do so, or certainly pay closer attention to it. The performance should be measured throughout the year to encourage their safety efforts or to assist them in identifying areas for enhancement. If you do it once a year and say, you know, Joe, you're pretty lousy this year with safety, we're going to have to take, 25% of your performance pay away as a result. Increase away as a result. I've been like, well, I wish you would have, I didn't know. I wish you would have told me maybe throughout the year and I could have got better at it. So it's being fair, obviously, to that individual, but also, you don't want something to linger for a full year. The idea here is continuous improvement, right? How can we continuously improve our performance when it comes to safety? So Arjun has developed a construction supervisor accountability form. And really what this form is designed to do, again, just like we were talking before, it's really important to be very specific on what exactly you're asking your leadership in the field to do. So our hope is that you could take this form and customize it into your own. But what we've done here is identified some pertinent tasks when it comes to safety, and then looking at, can you make this measurable? So for instance, under accident investigations, near miss investigations, we have a measurement that if they had, let's say, 5 injuries, where hope is that 5 out of 5 investigations were completed within 24 hours, so very specific, right? And the goal would be is that you want them for every injury, that they're investigating every injury and identifying what we can do to prevent a reoccurrence. So when you look at the different tasks, you can start to say, okay, does this make sense for our environment? And which ones are more pertinent for us? But we felt like this might be a really nice, usable document. And then, of course, you can, as I said before, you can customize it, and your loss control consultant at Argent is more than willing to help you, develop this and help you make sure that it fits your environment. So this next form comes from the Foundations for Safety Leadership Program. This was a joint effort between the University of Colorado and OSHA outreach trainers. And Argent has been allowed to provide this form and also the actual training program for our accounts. So if you're interested in learning more about the training, which I'll be talking about a little bit later, you can certainly talk to your loss control consultant and they can help secure not only this form, but the actual training as well. So what this form is about, it's a self-assessment, and it stands for leader, and it looks at how well is your crew leaders, your field leaders doing for some key components when it comes to safety. So for instance, do they lead by example? Do they maintain a positive attitude about safety? Do they do that always, sometimes, or never? They can kind of assess each one of these components. Do they engage and empower team members? Do they have those safety huddles or those safety talks? And do they get input from the team members about their safety? Do they actively listen and make sure that they're hearing what the employees are saying and then reacting to that accordingly? Do they develop team members through teaching, coaching, and providing that feedback? And be able to do that in a respectful manner, because it's one thing to give feedback that you're not doing things to a certain standard, but can you provide them that information in a respectful way that gets the person to react, in this case, react safely, right? Do we recognize team members for a job well done? You know, simply that thank you, or give them that pat on the back for a job well done. But in this case, a job well done safely as well, right? So they can assess each one of these components, and what they can also then, on the next page over, is if they find that there's areas that they would like to improve on, they can use this next form to set that plan into action. So in which of the 5 skill areas are you doing really well? Which of the skill areas do you need to work on or improve? Which ones would you work on first within the next 3 months? And then more importantly, what steps are you actually going to take to improve those? So for instance, you know what? During the safety team huddles, I'm just kind of giving them the safety topic, and there isn't really much discussion from my crews. So, you know what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start to ask them specific questions related to the job tasks that we're doing to get them to talk about the safety topic. So if it's about, you know, using, you know, safe tools, maybe I'm going to ask them about the tools that they have at the work site, and, you know, do they have the guards on them? You know, are all moving parts properly guarded? Are the cords on the tools, are they well maintained? Whatever the issue might be, I'm going to ask them more specific questions to get them to talk and engage and to provide feedback. And then they also can look more longer term. What skills are they going to work on next 3 to 6 months? The point being here is that they can not only look at what areas are doing well in, but how can I continue to get better and put that plan and that action into motion? So we have several different resources that I just want to make you aware of when it comes to providing training for your leadership in the field. Obviously, we have Argent's loss control staff that can develop customized training programs for you, whether it's on accident investigation training, maybe it is providing training on observations that they have made in the field, and help enhance the awareness of your field leadership. Talked about the foundations of safety leadership training. And again, this is a cooperative between the University of Colorado and OSHA outreach trainers. There was a 17-team group that got together to develop specifically for construction foremen and leadership on how do they, in various situations, how do they enhance safety and how do they react to an employee that maybe is not following the safety protocols in the field. So if you have an individual not tying off, you got an individual not wearing their hard hat or safety glasses, how do you address those situations so you get that employee to react in a positive way. Obviously, we have OSHA training courses are provided throughout the year as another alternative for you. And then the National Safety Council would be another one as well. Certainly here in Wisconsin, they're very active with providing training as well. So to help put this all together, we talked about what is accountability and the importance of identifying for your foreman and your crew leaders the specific things that you want them to do for safety. So the importance here is that we're communicating to them and objectively measuring what it is you want them to do for safety. At the same time, we want to make sure that we properly train them. So we're making them aware of the safety issues, that we're making them aware of what their roles and responsibilities are. And I think if you can have good accountability, you communicate what it is you want them to do in the field, and you provide them with the proper training, this in fact is going to help enhance your overall safety. And from an insurance perspective, hopefully keep your frequency of claims or injuries reduced, and therefore keep the cost of your insurance reduced as well. So in summary, to be a safety leader, you need to lead your team by example, right? Talked about the fact that the crew member needs to understand what their roles and responsibilities are so they in turn can then hold their team responsible. What is your safety program? Can Argent help enhance your programs? Can we help you with developing your accountability programs, developing what you're asking your foreman to do in the field? We talked about the accountability processes and how that promotes safety, right? If we're holding folks specifically accountable for a specific task and make them measurable, we can help enhance the overall safety culture. And safety accountability in turn really helps save dollars, right? Because if folks aren't getting hurt, if we're providing a safer work environment, a safety work culture, we're going to prevent those injuries from happening, which in turn is going to save you dollars, right? Injuries cost money. We want to enhance that safety culture, decrease those work-related injuries, and ultimately, right, increase job satisfaction. So I want to thank you for spending some time with us. We are going to go into a question period here now, question and answer period here now. So we're going to turn it over, and the Argent construction team is available here to answer any questions you have or concerns that we can address for you. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you, Chris and Joe, for your presentation. If anybody has any questions, if you would please chat them in the window to the right side of your screen, or it should be the right side for most people. We will be more than happy to take your questions. I don't see any questions, haven't seen any yet. So thank you everyone for your participation today. Have a great day.